Welcome back to You Are Your Business podcast. And I'm very excited today to be chatting with Nicole Bernard, who is a marketing agency owner and has her own podcast and has been a business owner since 2007. We connected through Threads. So I'm very excited to connect with you and also like the power of social media, right? Like
I
it's just
know.
amazing, like the people you meet and like just
Mhm.
the heart-centered entrepreneurs, I feel like that are on there as well too.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, and I've been loving Threads. I've met so many new people on Threads that, like a lot of my other networks, there's a little bit of overlap, but there's not much on Threads, which is so
I
fun.
I agree. Maybe we can get into that in a bit when it comes to like marketing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But first, for our listeners, why don't you share a little bit about how you got kind of started on your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I never really thought I'd be an entrepreneur. Like I graduated college and then I worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car and just kind of thought I'd go the corporate route because then I could wear like heels and cool clothes
Yeah.
in my 20s. But my husband actually, then boyfriend, he had come up to the Northwest on a trip and he kind of wanted to, we were in New Orleans at the time, and he kind of wanted to do a change. It was a few years after Hurricane Katrina. And
Yeah.
so we ended up moving up to the Northwest and buying a small farm. And that was before kids and we were young. So it seemed like a great idea. So yeah, we opened up a farm and grew a bunch of vegetables and we started brewing beer a few years into that. And then, yeah, we did that for about 10 years. And then our neighbors weren't as excited about our success. And so we ended up going through some things with our neighbors, closing those doors. And then I worked for a marketing agency for about 2.5 years and then started my own in 2016. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
That's amazing. It's interesting because a lot of times, we go through those trial periods where you're like, it sounds like your business was extremely successful. Your marketing was really great. The fact that you had all these people coming to your home, but it's like frustrating in the moment too, because you're like, this doesn't seem to be working in the sense that
Yeah.
there's all these other hiccups that come with it. So
Oh,
like
yeah.
during that time period, like what kind of was like, okay, it's time for us to like shut this down and do something different?
Yeah, no, it was great. You were so right. Like it was successful. People loved it. And we still talk to customers and their friends now. They're lifelong friends that used to come to the farm. But there was all of the other stuff. Like the logistics of actually having a small business and having people work in our tap room and making sure vegetables and like I baked like 40 loaves of bread a weekend for the
Oh
farmers
my
market.
gosh.
So just all of those things of like time management skills and things like that, which you always feel like you're kind of behind, or at least I did, and we'd always get
Yes.
there like in the nick of time. But yeah, the thing that made it change, which is great looking back, because we were working a lot, and it was long weeks, and our kids were super little. Um, but we and only ended up closing because we got a cease and desist, and then we went through this whole public hearing, like,
Oh my
and that's
gosh.
what had to change so much,
Yeah.
that we decided to close our doors. But again, looking back, and then we had investors, we were trying to get a loan, we were going to do like a full-on restaurant, which thank
Yeah.
God we didn't, because again, our kids were like 1 and 4 at the time, and we didn't like we had an idea, but we had never run a restaurant before. Um,
Yeah.
so it felt kind of like the rug was pulled out of, from under us, because it did happen quite quickly. But, looking where we're at now, it's just funny, how life works like that in that entrepreneurial journey. You never really know sometimes.
No, and it sounds like it also gave you kind of like little drops of like inspiration because it's like the marketing obviously worked really well in your
Yeah.
business. And then the fact that you went to like a marketing agency as well too. I feel like that was just kind of a natural progression from what you were
Mhm.
doing too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So my degree was in marketing, and like I did an internship for Microsoft my senior year at LSU.
Okay.
And that was really neat. That's where I really fell in love with it. Like the strategy, but in the creativity kind of blended together. And, learning from Microsoft, they like flew us up to their campus. It was the first time I ever, was in first class. It was amazing. But it was neat, being able to apply those as a small business owner. And then I went to the agency world, and yes, I saw, similar tools and strategies, but a lot of people in the agency world had never necessarily been a small business owner. So
Yeah.
that was, that's where I kind of branched out on my own, because I have kind of, I have the experience on both sides.
Definitely. And I feel like that's really helpful, like even with like the mindset
Yeah.
stuff, like as an entrepreneur, because you get that you've been there before. So you know some of the hiccups and the frustrations that can happen when it comes to like marketing as opposed to you're right with agency. They're more like focused, I guess, on like growing bigger companies as opposed to like the solo entrepreneur kind of thing too.
Yeah, definitely. And they account for that in their, what they charge, and a lot of business
Yeah.
owners can't afford that. But then we also don't have the time to try to learn, all of the marketing things we should be doing because we're running a business. And so, yeah, that's what I've really liked to do. So sometimes I will just coach people because once they understand what they're doing and why they're doing it and where they should be doing it, it goes a lot quicker. So that's been really neat too.
Absolutely. And I'm sure it's such an amazing time saver for people too, because, as a lot of service-based business owners, they have limited time or limited budget. So
Yeah.
maybe where should people kind of start to focus some of their marketing efforts if they're looking to like grow their business further too?
Yeah, definitely. I get that question a lot. Like everybody's like, what
Yeah.
is the best, like what marketing channel should I be using?
Yeah.
And I wish I had like a black and white answer. I really do.
Yeah.
Because yeah, a few of my clients, like and it depends. It all goes back to, who your people are, what problem you're solving for them, what kind of
Yep.
content they like to consume, where they're spending their time. And then consistency, that seems to be the biggest issue. And I get it. I
Yeah.
really do. Even sometimes in my business, I'll do everybody else's marketing and then I'm like, oh wait, yeah, I should be.
Doing mine too. Yeah.
Exactly. What's that saying?
I
Like the
get it.
cobbler's son goes in those shoes or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
because yeah, it
Definitely.
gets pushed to the back burner because it's easy to push it back there. But yeah, so I would say I even have like a free marketing workbook, so people can kind of think about their goals and then their messaging and then that buyer persona. Because
Yeah.
again, once you really know those, like for instance, one of my clients is an AI scribe and they go heavily on podcast ads and
Yeah.
influencers. And then one of mine is a lawyer and we go really hard into like the SEO of like the informational stuff. And then
Right.
another one's a brewery. So we go heavy on social media because it's so visual and, B2C. So again, just kind
Yes.
of depends.
Yeah, and that's a really good point too, that like certain platforms are better for your certain clients and your certain
Exactly.
customers too, because I feel like the brewery, they're not going to be on LinkedIn
No. Yeah.
sharing as much, right? So
Yep.
yeah. And so one of the things I've kind of seen you talk about too is like around effective marketing. So like how can people, I guess people always want to know like measuring. Like how do you measure like if it's working or what's like effective
Right.
kind of thing? And I'm sure that probably comes up a lot because it can be hard. I feel like marketing is the long game, just like
Hmm.
entrepreneurship is the long game,
Yes,
and
exactly.
people are always looking for like that quick return on investment and that doesn't always
Yes.
happen. So, yeah, can you share maybe a bit more about that too?
Definitely. Yeah, and so I would, I do run we run reports for clients every month. But I will say too, if anybody is looking at their numbers and they're just down, like that is across the board because, a lot of, search engine like search is changing right now. And so we're
Yeah.
not getting the clicks that we used to. Like all of this hard work that we've done to get on like the front page and up the top is kind of being pushed to the side right now. And I hope it'll come back, but we'll see. And then, the search everywhere optimization, our customer journeys are just so broken right now because we're
Yeah.
all over the place. We can find someone here and, like an Instagram, and then we don't even end up making it to their website. You know what I mean? And so,
Yes.
but I still do, we look at website analytics, but just knowingly, we know the shift right now.
Yes.
Also, too, in social media, engagement is down, but that doesn't mean that people don't see it. So I would still consider, like, suggest being consistent, still being helpful, showing up.
Yep.
And email has always had such a pretty strong ROI, and that is across different industries that I've worked with
Yeah.
throughout the years. So measuring those, and can you sell in those, like so. Um, and you just, yeah, I would just keep an eye on your analytics. We do have like a spreadsheet that we do every month across those, but again, just kind of knowing that marketing's kind of in a flux right now.
You're
So,
right, and I guess you bring up a good point too. It's kinda like that roller coaster,
yeah,
right? And it's riding the wave of like, this is what's happening in the world right now, and we're
exactly.
gonna be on the other side of that at some point here
Yes,
too, so
exactly. Yes. Fingers
yes.
crossed sooner rather than later.
Yes, absolutely. So you've talked a bit about consistency as well too. So like I know that can look different for everyone. So do you maybe have some tips? Because I think some people are like, I'm consistent. I posted every Monday, or I'm
Right.
consistent because I've showed up 7 days this week. Like what does that kind of
Mhm.
in your world and like mindset shift for people around consistency?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and again, too, I think it goes back to again, the business owner and the people, who you're trying to target. You could post every day, but again, posting like quantity does not really, doesn't equate to what it used to. People used to think like
Yes.
we could post once or twice a day and you would see the output, and it's just not like that anymore.
Yeah.
So you can kind of, experiment with how how much it feels good for you, how, and also take notice. You can look in your analytics on, say, where social media, anywhere you can see where your people are a little more busy. You can, also see when you get, a lot of engagement. Like I know
Yeah.
LinkedIn is like on fire from like 4 a.m. my time to like 7 a.m., my time, which would be 10 Eastern. So again,
Yep.
just kind of depending on what platform you're doing or whatever, or like email. I send mine on Friday afternoons, and everybody said like that was a terrible open rate,
Yeah.
but mine are 50% and higher. So, and it's mainly because that's the last thing that I do all that week, and so it's like I should get it out in the morning, but so again, it's just kind of keeping an eye on knowing what you're doing and how your people are responding, and just keeping it going. Whether it's once a week and it get really good engagement, just kind of playing around and then sticking to that schedule once you kind of figure out what really works.
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful. And even you brought up a good point around like the behavior of your clients as well too. Because I'm thinking like Friday afternoon, most people are probably kind of checking out. So like
Hmm.
let's check my email and see what's going on or check any last things before I'm done for the weekend, right? So I
Yeah,
feel like that's
exactly.
a good point too. Good
Hmm.
strategy around that.
Yeah, yeah, and I kind of found it on accident because I really meant it to go out Friday mornings, but yeah, Friday afternoon seems to be working. So,
Yeah, and even I think around like the mindset piece because someone told you it doesn't work and then
hmm,
you're like, "Well, I'm going to do it anyways." And I think that's a really good point because I think so often in business we're told you need to do it this way or do it that way and you're
exactly.
like, "I'm going to do it my way," and it seems to be working for me.
Yeah, yeah, I know we're not really taught to trust our intuition a lot, in
Yeah.
business. Yeah. And, I went, like I said, my degree was in marketing. So I went through all of the business classes again. This was like before the dawn of the internet. So it was maybe a little bit different curriculum. But again, it was like, just do this and this and this, and no macroeconomics and finance and all that. And it wasn't, I don't know, like you were saying too, like soul connected entrepreneurship, I think is
Yeah.
so much more effective.
It is, and I feel like we're seeing such a shift like that now in the
Hmm.
online space and even in person as well too. Like
Yeah,
people are really connecting with people that have similar values or similar experiences or like it's that know like and trust factor, but I feel like
exactly.
it's more like a softer, gentler approach to the know like and trust as opposed to like in your face as much as it used to be too.
Totally, yeah, it was like that hustle, grind, grit,
Yes.
keep going, like, yeah, all of that, follow these rules, get up at 4, that kinda thing, and thank God
Yeah.
it is going an opposite direction now.
Absolutely. I tried to be a 5 o'clock person. I think I did it for like 2 days and I was
Yeah,
like, "I can't." I also
right,
have like, I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, so I was like, "This doesn't work for the season of life that I'm in right
right,
now either to be
exactly, yeah,
doing that."
yeah.
So
Tot
yes. So, what have you seen as some of like the big shifts that have happened in marketing? Because you've been an entrepreneur, for I guess almost 20 years now, which is crazy
Yeah,
and
I
amazing.
know, it is
But
crazy.
to think about, like, how you used to do marketing before compared to, like, what the world is like now, like, what are some of the shifts that you've seen or what's working, I guess, still too?
Yeah. Oh, totally. So, yeah, so like I said, seriously, my senior year, my internship, like there was talks of the Facebook, like, we didn't even know what that was?
Yeah.
And so we had this big project for Microsoft. They had just released OneNote, and so they were going through campuses, all around the country and having, kids do it and put it on, for, like, a certain amount of downloads. And so, back then it was, like, still those, the flyers you would put on people's windshields. We would have parties in the quad to, like, have people come over and be like, "Oh, what is this?" and explain it to them.
Yeah.
So again, not even no internet, no email, no anything like that. And so just different kind of, I guess you would call it guerrilla marketing, back then.
Yeah.
And so fast forward a few years, like to the brewery, we did a lot of influencer marketing before it even had a name, like
What's
craft.
a thing?
Yeah, I know exactly. People were like, "What?"
Yeah.
I was just like, "Oh, there's beer bloggers. I'm going to invite them to the farm and let them drink." And then
Brilliant.
they went
Yeah.
back, they blogged about it, they shared it on their social media. And so it's similar to now. I think now what I had mentioned before, our attention spans are just so much shorter, and that we have
Yeah.
so many different channels to choose from. But again, we still tend to stick to the ones we really like. So that's what I'm saying, like really find where your people are at. They're probably across the all of them because we all
Yeah.
are, but we still tend to like spend more time on certain ones. So, and again, like what kind of content they like to consume. Like I'm not a video person. I'm not on TikTok. Like I would rather download something and read it.
Yep.
That's just me. And but a lot of people love video. And so that search everywhere. But I would say that the one thing underlying all of that, and I've always felt that marketing is always about creating those relationships, and like you had mentioned, know, like, and trust. So however you can meet them on their channels and they can get to know you, like that's what it really is all about, and your mindset too. Like you can have a
Yeah.
fantastic strategy, but if your mindset is a little bit not where it should be, that's going to make it a whole lot harder.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one piece that I'm seeing kind of coming back around too is more in person. I think
Yes.
people were focusing their energy so much in the online space, and I understand why for,
Yeah,
2020 kind of thing, but I think it's
exactly.
so nice to see that it's coming back around because I think that that's been such a huge piece that's been missing for people is that
Yeah.
in-person connection.
I agree. Yeah. And it's so funny because we're connected all the time, but we don't really get to connect with people until we like meet them in real life. So yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I agree. I've seen a lot of more events lately, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And even just having a conversation. And I even
Yeah.
find like as business owners, when you go to these events and you're having to talk to like another business or a consumer, you gain more clarity and more
Yes.
confidence talking
Mhm.
about your business
Yeah.
because someone's like, "Who are you? What do you do?" And you're like, wait a minute, what's my 30-second elevator pitch on like who
Right.
am I and what do I do?" So
Yep,
yeah.
totally. Yeah, I remember before, the pandemic, I was a member of the Chamber of Commerce here, and yeah, that it was really great because we all got to, like, hang out, and that helped me, like you're exactly like you're saying. I remember the first time that, you go around the circle, and I was like,
Yeah.
and then, by the end, it was like, "Oh, yeah, this is what I do," and every time it changed a little bit, you refine it a little bit until you get
Yes.
really comfortable and it just feels true. So, yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, so I think for like, I guess my question is going to be for people that have in-person like service-based businesses or like a product, that's helpful. But maybe for someone who is more online based, I'm thinking of like coaches or like digital product creators, like would that still be a value for them too, like going in person and sharing that too?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if there's
Yeah.
people in your area, like there's so many different meetup entrepreneur groups, I feel like in
Yeah.
so many different places. And maybe even if it's not just a straight, sell or whatever, you can like glean so much information from each other, and that community too aspect that I think, when we're online a lot, that is
Yes.
just as helpful.
That's such a good point because you just got me thinking too. It's our values also in our network. So the
Yes.
fact that too, like you have someone asking a question, you're like, I can't help you. Like I'm just thinking ahead of someone referred someone to me the other day, and as on the call, I was like, I know there's like three other people that are probably a better fit, and I actually was because I'd met them and knew them, I was able to
Mhm.
like refer them out to these other
Yes.
people. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think even whether it's not to promote your business but to grow your network, I think yeah,
Yes,
in person is
totally.
definitely
I
awesome too.
agree. Yeah, because what we put out, we get back too. So a lot of,
Yes.
that's yeah.
Absolutely. Such a good perspective of everything. So, I guess also too, like your version of like success has probably shifted as well too. So like how did that work with like your mindset and your goals going from we're going to grow to this, brewery and this restaurant to like growing an agency at this point too? So like how did that kind of go with your journey and your mindset shifts too?
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like I'm late to the game as far as like mindset or even putting any, kind of effort into that and
Yeah.
digging a little bit deeper. Because after we closed the farm, I actually lost both my parents to cancer within about two and
Oh,
a half years of each, well, of losing the farm and a half year and a half of each other. And that kind of was like, okay, like life is really short, which is actually what made
yeah.
me kind of jump out and do it again. And so just kind of digging deeper and then realizing too how much of my personal life and beliefs were kind of intertwined to business. You know,
Yeah.
that was a lot, but in a great way. So it's like, well, I can work on this. Like, I get to figure this out. Um, and yeah, my like the success part is like, I have two kids as well. My daughter's a freshman, my son's in sixth grade. Like being able
Yeah.
to be, I'm gonna be his chaperone on the last day of school where we get to go like walk around town and do the scavenger hunt.
Yes.
Yeah, just, like being able to do things like that. And then, help other business owners too grow that because apparently a lot of people hate marketing. I didn't really know that. But
Yeah.
people tell me that all the time. I'm like, oh, okay.
You're like, perfect. So I
Right.
always have a business at this point
Right.
because I think it's true. A lot of times the marketing gets pushed to the side. And I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, you have like a passion. You're like, I want to help people. I want to support people. I have a gift, whether it's a product or a service. And they just want to do that part of it. They don't want to
Yeah.
have to do all the other stuff that comes with
Right.
it of like
Yeah.
The organizing the systems, the marketing is like the huge piece, right?
Yeah.
People don't know
Like
how to
two take
show
2
up.
hours to, like, make a reel and then edit it, and it's like, "Oh my god, come on." You know?
I know, exactly, and people or even just, like, what to post. I think
Yes,
that
that
comes to
is a
be, like, the
huge
big
one.
piece for people. Yeah.
Yes.
So I
Mhm.
think even talking about that is, like, if someone is kind of at that roadblock of, like, "What do I post? How do I reach my audience?" Like, what are maybe some tips or suggestions you have for people?
Yeah. So the first thing I tell them to do is think of like the 5 most common questions you get asked, or what you help them solve. And then, really kind of start to build that out. And I think the thing too is that we again, we get kind of overwhelmed having it all in our head, so I always kind of tell people, like, maybe on a
Yeah.
Sunday or even a Monday, like, whatever you can, like, that week before, take 15, 20 minutes. You don't have to have, like, every single word of your post written out, but,
Yeah.
what are some things you have coming up, or what are they struggling with, or, just different things like that. When they start to take the time to kind of think about that and get it out of their head, they're a lot less
Yes.
overwhelmed, and then they
Yeah.
start being consistent, they start to see some results, which is amazing, and then as they're doing it, they get used to doing it, so it starts to go a lot quicker. But yeah, that part
Yes.
in the beginning is a little rough, but once that ball gets rolling, that's where they start to see results.
Yeah, and it sounds like even doing, like, the time blocking,
Yeah.
right? Is, like, giving yourself because I think it's so easy to, like, just fill it with other things to do, and
Yes.
we get keep ourselves busy, but it's true
Yes.
without the marketing, like, people don't know you exist. So they
Yes.
don't know
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
how amazing you are and what you have to offer because they don't even know you exist.
Yes, exactly, and I also see, like, the cycle of, like, they market, 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 and then it goes great, and then they fall off, and then, business kinda slows down, and they have to market, 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 so it's like a loop, and I'm like, if you just kinda stay, like, a little consistent, again, you don't have to have every single thing, but, that just helps with business overall.
Yes, absolutely, and I've even caught myself in that cycle as well too
Mhm.
because I get really busy with, like, client work, and then it's like, "Oh my goodness, I should be sharing while I'm in this energy
Right.
of being busy working," but it's true, we get put that to the side, so
Yeah.
I've been trying to even, like, just show up on stories, at
Yes.
least if I'm still
Mhm.
like that to me is being consistent, right? Obviously,
Totally,
like, I wanna
yes.
do more posts, but yeah, I agree. I think we kinda, again, push that to the side when we're in our busy season too.
Yeah, for sure. And also too, like you said, being consistent, and I think too is if you're making a point to put it on stories, like you're still putting energy out there, which I think is a
Yeah.
big factor too. So and I think that does a lot more to help, the algorithm sees you're still being active, your people, not necessarily having to be everywhere at every time, but if you're still putting some energy somewhere, that's awesome.
That's yes. Well, thank you. Good. That feels good. Yes. So I think the other piece too, we kind of talked at the beginning around threads. So like as entrepreneurs, we can feel like we need to be everywhere.
Mhm.
But I feel like, I had a friend and actually a colleague suggest me like you should be on threads, like the things you're talking about, like sharing your messaging. So like how have you noticed threads to be different than like some of the other platforms?
Yeah, I just feel like everybody's super supportive, and I don't
Yes.
know, like, and not that I have bad experiences on other platforms, but I don't know, just the sense of community and like collaboration and celebration on Threads. And I didn't know too how well it would do because like I don't remember. Do you remember Clubhouse? I mean, I know that was only
Yes,
audio, but
that
yeah,
no,
we've
but
seen
still, it was all during it really, like, peaked during COVID
right.
as well too with
Yes.
Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I didn't know if it was like, oh, if this is gonna stick around, but they just, I think, passed like 150 million monthly users or something like that. Like
Oh,
they are
wow.
growing, but it is still, I don't know, such a great community. And like I said, there's not a lot of overlap of people that I know on there, and I've still been able to connect with all these other awesome entrepreneurs like yourself. Like we met on Threads,
Yeah,
and
on
yeah, a
thread
few other
yeah, and
people I
I
can think of like that I connect with pretty regularly, and it's just like, oh, I would never would have maybe met y'all if it hadn't have been for Threads. So.
it's true, and I've thought that as well too, and I've even noticed, like, maybe again, it's the algorithm, but it's, like, all entrepreneurs that I'm
Yes, mhm.
connecting with, like, I don't see a lot of, like, consumers necessarily,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
clients on
I
there,
agree.
right?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
mhm.
So I feel like it's its own little, like, entrepreneurial secret in a
Yes, exactly.
way.
And I think
So
people are just having fun too, like,
that
I mean,
too.
a little bit of strategy, but, like, it seems a little bit less, like, it's really just, like, a community of, like, people sharing and celebrating and yeah.
Exactly, sharing their ideas and, like,
Yes.
what's going on in
Yeah.
life, but also what's going on in business, and it's true. I've seen people post, like, "I need a speaker for this."
Yes.
Share what you've got, and, like,
Mm.
the amount of recommendations people are sharing, like, I just think
Mhm.
it just seems like a really good platform to be utilizing as, like, an entrepreneur, not for business, but also like mindset wise too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I do, like, whenever
Yeah.
I'm like, I have a question on something, and I like that's where I go to, like, Threads, kinda get, like, some
Yeah.
feedback from, because my ideal customer is entrepreneurs, so it's like, that makes sense for me, and yeah, again, too, I don't know if it's Threads algorithm is different, but it seems to get a lot more movement than the other social platforms, so
It does. I'm thinking like when I've posted like a question on like an Instagram story, like I don't get as much movement
right.
on that compared to when you post it on Threads.
Yeah, I agree, same.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, awesome. Okay. So you also host your own podcast as well
Mhm.
too. So what is the name of your I know I'm going to be on in a couple weeks too. I'm like, "Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, I remember what the name of it is."
Yeah, no, well, and it's funny because you should I actually have 2, and
Okay.
so, you are on my newer one, but you should
Okay.
actually come on my other one. So the one I've had for 6 years is called Bubbles and Biz, and that's I we send a bottle of champagne to my listeners, we sip and
Yeah.
chat about, kinda like this, like, just organic
Connecting.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, connecting, whatever they are really great at, like, sometimes we'll have, like, ad strategists or things like that because so wherever the conversation goes, and then my other one is a newer one, and that's called Always Winning, and that is kind of based off of a lot of the stuff I went through losing my parents and mindset. So
Yeah.
it's like worthiness and inspired action. And that one's still pretty raw, but it's been really fun. And they're both in the top 100 for their different categories. So that's exciting.
Which is amazing. Yes, because I remember you had like a winning strategy and like each one represented like so I think
Hmm.
that's amazing too because then you're getting people sharing like their stories as well with
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
each of what's
Hmm.
something that they've kind of gone through as well
Yeah.
too to help uplift them.
Totally. And
So
I love it
yeah.
that it's entrepreneurs too, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like, and it's just, I can want everybody to be able to create a winning life, whatever that looks like for them, and then share their
Yes.
stories of how they have. So,
I love that, and I think that's so important because I think there's been such a shift, in the way of the world and culture and what people think because I think so often we were told, like, you find that corporate job and you work your way up the ladder, and then you're in that job for the next 30 years, and then,
you
you
retire,
retire and that's what
then
you
you
do,
die.
and
Like,
exactly, and I'm like, there's I know. So I left my corporate job, which I'm sure we'll get into, but
yes.
yeah, I had left that, so I just know, like, there's other ways of living, and I think that the more people that are taking the steps that feel good to them are
Yeah.
inspiration for other people to be like, "Hey, maybe I'll start a business or maybe I'll start this craft hobby that I'd like to do."
Yeah.
But just doing something that brings them more joy and not living mundane and everything too.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. Because I mean, life really is short, and so however you really want to go after it, and again, too, like we were saying, and what you were just saying, we were kind of taught, and maybe it's our generation, but yeah,
Maybe.
it was like,
Yeah,
yeah, you go to college. Like I'm the baby of 5. We all went to college. Like that wasn't even like
a
a discussion
question.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, same thing. We probably should have worked for 40 years at a job, like my dad did, and
Yep.
that's but luckily, like that narrative is starting to change. So
Yes, and I think it's good, and I think it's even like we're now passing on different beliefs and values for our kids as well
yes, yeah.
too, right?
Mhm.
So yeah,
I agree.
we're that generation that are changing things up for with the world. So yes.
That's good.
Good. Okay, so I guess I just kind of have a couple questions here around maybe is there like a myth around marketing that you kind of want to like bust from people? I know we kind of talked a bit about like consistency and marketing feeling like it's hard, but is there any other like things that people kind of come to you with that you've noticed like a common theme?
Yeah, so a big one when people ask me, like, they're like, "Can you help me with my marketing?" I'm like, "Yeah." Or like, I'm having issues with marketing, blah, blah, and then it's only social media that comes up, and so I feel like there's a myth that, like, marketing, digital marketing is social media only, and granted, that's, like, a part of it, like, I always like to say it's, like, kinda like a pie, like, you've got your
Yeah.
SEO, you've got your social media, you got your email, your content, things like public relations, and they all work together for the best results, and again, that can sound like a lot, as a business owner, but the more you kinda get into being able to do those things, it gets a lot quicker and easier. But yeah, that's a big one. They'll just start to ask me about social media.
That is such a good point because it's true. That's always the top of mind for people for
Mhm.
sure. So
Yeah.
amazing. Okay, I feel like we could chat forever. This has
Me
been
too.
awesome. So thank you so much for sharing. I'll be sure to include in the show notes as well too, like where people can find you. And I know you had like a link to like some of your freebies as well, which I know will really help
Yeah.
our listeners too. So I guess is there any kind of last words of like wisdom or inspiration that you want to share with our listeners when it comes to like marketing and being the face of their business?
Yeah, I guess I would say too, yeah, I think a lot of us shot and myself included. I mean, I actually really hate video, but like, I think we get nervous to put ourselves out there, however that might be for us, whether it's even writing or if it's a podcast or things like that. And I've just found that I think we judge ourselves a little bit more than other people do. So I don't know, just to maybe have that courage to start taking those steps and to be consistent with those, that really makes a big difference. And then you can kind of realize too, like, oh, I can do these hard things, and then that helps with other hard things to get through too. So
Oh, thank you. That's such good support and advice. And it's true. Doing the hard things, it builds that confidence. And then
exactly,
it's like, okay, I can do the next thing now. So
exactly,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
And that's like entrepreneurship, right? Like it's like just
Absolutely.
like once you get through one, it's like okay,
Absolutely. It's like then the next step and the next hurdle. And yeah,
yeah.
but we wouldn't change it for anything. And we're still
Exactly,
here.
I
So
know, like, I can't think I mean, it would be hard to go back to, like, a 9 to 5 job. I mean, I only had one for not that long out of college, but, yeah, I think we're a different kinda breed, huh?
we definitely are. And I'm always like, I'm sure I would be fired at this point if I ever went back to a 9 to 5. So yeah.
It's a good thing.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Nicole. It's been
Thank
such a
you.
pleasure chatting with you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is awesome.